Hi and welcome to this DCP Web Blender 2.8 beginner's tutorial. In today's tutorial we're going to create a 3D golden dragon. So let's open up this folder, and inside this folder I've got a file. I'm just going to open up my web browser. You don't really need to do this, but inside this folder I've got a file. It's called 3ddragon-01.svg. I'm just going to drag this into the browser. I just want to show you this image, and this image is called a scalable vector graphic. It's called an SVG file, scalable vector graphic. So this was designed, I created this in Photoshop, and after I created it in Photoshop I exported it as an SVG file. So if I zoom in you can see that it doesn't pixelate, and if I right click and go to the view source code you can see that the actual image is made up of paths. You see path here, and all of these coordinates create this final image here. And the advantage of this is that in Photoshop it's much easier to create an image like this than to create it directly in Blender. So normally stuff like this I'll do in Photoshop first, and then I'll export it as an SVG file, and then I'll import that into Blender. So let's do that now. This particular file, I'm going to put a link to it in the YouTube description so you can download it. It's only 11 kilobytes, a very small file. So I'll put a link to this file and you can download it from the link in the YouTube description, and then you can follow this tutorial. So we'll open up Blender and we'll click on General, then we'll go to File, Save As, and inside the folder on my desktop I'm going to create a file called 3D Dragon -01, and we're going to call it -01 because we're going to create some other versions possibly later. So let's click Save, and we'll click on the cube and delete it. Now if you've not used Blender before, I'll also put a link to a beginner's tutorial in the YouTube description. I suggest you check that tutorial first because it's going to give you some key fundamentals of how to use Blender, how to navigate it, how to use the viewport, and it will teach you some of the core skills that you're going to need. But you can also follow this tutorial. So I'm going to middle mouse click on rotate around, and we've got the y-axis and the x-axis this way like this. And I'm going to go to Edit, Preferences, and then go to Add-ons and click Import Export here, and make sure Import Export Scalable Vector Graphics 1.1 format, make sure this is ticked off. It should be as default, but just make sure it's ticked off. Click Save Preferences and close it, then go to File, Import Scalable Vector Graphic here. So I'm going to click on that and then go into the folder, and this is the file you're going to download yourself from the YouTube description. So you'll click on that file after you've downloaded it and you click Import SVG, and then it looks like nothing's happened, but we're going to press number 7 and then we're going to zoom right in, and you can see that here's this 3D dragon. Well, it's not 3D, we're going to make it 3D. So at the moment you'll see that there's a new collection being created here, and if we click on the arrow it's called curves, right? And this is actually the dragon itself, but it's made up of curves. So if we were to go into object mode and edit mode and then click on one of these points here, let's say this, let's click on this one right here, this one here, right? If I were to press G on my keyboard to grab it, I can actually change the shape of the dragon, right? I can change it before I convert it into a mesh object. I just want to explain to you that basically this is all made up of curves, but to make this in Blender, I'm not saying it's impossible, you can do this. It's not, you know, you can probably do it in Blender quite easily, but I find it easiest to do it in Photoshop because I'm used to those tools. So we'll go back to edit mode and click on object mode, and the problem right now is it's curves and we want to convert it into a mesh object so that we can give it some thickness, right? So we'll go to object, convert to a mesh here. Now it doesn't look like much has happened, but what we can do now is zoom out a little bit, go to object, set origin, geometry to origin here, and then we will zoom out a little bit more, then we'll middle mouse click so we can see the object at an angle like this. We'll press R to rotate, and we want to rotate it on the horizontal axis, so we'll press X and then we'll type in 90. So all we've done is basically rotated this 90 degrees. You can see 90 degrees here. And we are going to go to the add modifier, add this modifier, and we're going to add a solidifier here. And then we're going to go to the material here, and we will click on actually look dev mode here. So click on this option here, and then go to the base color and set it to all the way up to white, and then change it to like a yellow color for now. So if we were to zoom in a little bit, we can see the object has got some thickness to it now, right? So let's zoom out a little bit here, and we're going to click here to move it. So click this option and we're going to move it up, and then we're going to press S to scale. In fact, what we'll do is we'll click here, object, and on the X and Y scale, we're going to set it to, let's say 15, and we'll type in 15 here. Now we can see the dragon's much bigger, it's easier to see, and we'll drag it so that it's above this this red line. So it sits above the red line here. Let's zoom out a little bit more, and what we want to do is give the dragon thickness, right? It's very thin at the moment, so let's go back to the modifier, and its thickness, we can increase it now. So we'll set it to something like 0.2. Now you can see it's a solid object. So that was pretty easy, right? So you can imagine in Photoshop you could create any of these images, whatever pattern, style, design. It could be in a logo, could have been a shape, could have been anything, and then you can just bring it into Blender as an SVG file, apply a mesh, convert it to a mesh first, and then apply the solidify modifier to it, and then you can give it thickness, and now, you know, within a few minutes you've got this 3D dragon. That's pretty cool that you can do that. Let's go to File, Save, and we'll do a few more things here quickly. What we would do is, for now, we're going to go to the, let's see, the render settings here. We're going to turn on bloom. So it's going to give it like this bloom effect. We're going to sort out the colors and a few little bits in a minute. What we need to do is go to the render view here, and what we will do is just open up our web browser, because we need to download a few files to improve this lighting and do a few things here, right? So let's open up our web browser, and we're going to go to HDRI Haven. So I'll put a link to this website in the YouTube description. Let me make a note to do that quickly. And then in here we're going to go to browse all, and we'll click more here, and I'm going to find something that I think will work well. So I'm going to just click on this museum one here. So I'll click on that, and then I'm going to download the 4K 24 megabytes. So I'll click on that file there. That was this one here I clicked on. I'll open up the folder, and inside the folder I'm going to create a new folder and just call it HDRI, and then drag this image into here, and then I'm going to create another folder and call it let's call it dragon material. And then inside of that folder I'm going to go to a different website. I'll put a link to this one in the YouTube description as well. In fact, let me make a copy of this, and we'll go to this other website. We'll click show filter, and in the categories we're going to select metal, and then click the search button, and we're going to use, let's say we'll use, I don't know, we said golden dragon, right? So we should really do gold, shouldn't we? So let's find something. Maybe like, we can either do this dirty gold, which doesn't sound too nice, or we'll try, let's try this brush gold, this one, brush metal gold. Maybe that'll look cool. Let's try that. So we'll click on it, and then we want to download the base color. We want to download the metal, normal, and the roughness. We don't really need the height map, I don't believe, so we'll check it. So let's drag the brush into here, brush metal. We'll drag the roughness. We've got the normal there. We've got the, sorry, this is the metallic, and then this final one with the base color. So I don't think we need the height map. In fact, we'll download it anyway, it's not going to hurt, and we'll drag it in here, but I don't think we need it because we've got the normal here, but we'll experiment and see what happens. So let's minimize this. Let's go back to Blender. We've got this object here now, and we want to go to the UV editor, and we want to press, let's see, it's not selected, right? So we'll press A, the letter A, to select this object. We'll press U, and then we do Smart UV Project, and we'll click OK. Now we can see the object has been flattened out. This is probably not the best way to do this. Maybe I'll do some more tutorials later on how to flatten out this object in a better way, but for now we're just playing around. It's just a little bit of fun, so we'll UV unwrap it this way. We'll go to shading here, and then let's see. We want to click use nodes here. Now we can see the principal shader here, right? So I'm going to just drag this up a little bit. We can see the dragon here. We can't see it too well, but don't worry about that. So we've got the principal shader here, and we're going to browse to my desktop, and we're going to go to that dragon folder, and we've got the dragon material here, the folder for it. We've got the brush gold, and this is called the base color. So we drag this into here. It's called base color right here, if you can see that, base color. So we drag this color to the base color here, written base color. Then we've got the, let's see, what we've got here. We've got, this is the metallic, so we drag metallic down here. Let's make a little bit more space. So this is the metallic. We set this to non-color data, and we drag the color to the metallic over here. It says metallic. Then we have the normal, and we've got the roughness. So let's drag roughness down to here, and we'll set that to non-color data. The only one of these objects that will have color data is the base color. All of these other ones will have non-color data. So we'll drag this color to the, this is the roughness, right? So we'll drag it to roughness here, and then we've got the normal. So the normal is normally used for the height map, but we've also got a height map in its own right. So let's try and see what this height map does. So let's drag it into here. It's called height. So let's press Shift A, and we'll insert a vector bump here, and we'll connect the color to the height here, and set this one to non-color data, and then we'll drag the normal to the normal here. Then let's zoom in and see what that did, right? Let's drag this down a little bit so we can see it a bit clearer. And then the strength, you know, if it's really strong, I mean, it's really down for you to experiment with this now, but you can change the strength to affect how much this bump map is affecting the object, right? So you can see it's shining off of it. But let's try, in fact, let's try the normal map as well. So let's disconnect this one temporarily. Let's just zoom out a little bit here. Let's just drag this across. And we want to drag this other one. This is the normal map. Here it's called normal. So we'll connect the color to the height here, and we'll change the strength. So they're both having quite a dramatic effect on this. Let's click invert. So I think something like this is going to be okay, right? You don't want it too much strength. You can even remove it completely, and then you just have the brush metal like this without it having any sort of bump map applied to it. Kind of like it like this, but maybe we'll have a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to layout. We'll leave it like this for now. Really, this should be set to non-color data. Yeah, we'll leave it like this. I think this looks okay. If you don't see it in here like this, it's because you're not selected to look dev mode here, right? Must have this option on. If you've got solid view, you're going to see it like this. Wireframe, you'll see it like this. Look dev mode. Let me just quickly explain what it is. So basically, it's like temporary lighting. So if I were to click here on this, let's see. If I were to click here on this shading, then click on this sphere here, you've got these different options to see this object in these different light scenes. So if I click this one, it's quite dark now, right? The scene is quite dark, and you'll see it's changed like how this object looks, because lighting really affects objects, right? the way they look. So if you click here and click on this one, you can see a different example. So the material itself hasn't changed, it's the lighting that's been changed here. And then you can click on this last one here. You can see it like with a lot of this blue light coming through. So that's all look dev is. It's almost like temporary lighting just to see what your object looks like in these different lighting environments here. So we'll leave it on the original one. It's kind of got this green tinge to it because it's got trees and stuff in there. And we'll go back to layout here. And you can still see it looks a bit rubbish, right? In the actual render view. So if we were to render it now, so if we just position the dragon somewhere like here, press Control Alt and 0, that will move the camera to what we can see. Then we can press N on our keyboard, the letter N, and then click on Lock Camera to View. Then we can use the mouse wheel to zoom out a bit because we want to see the whole dragon. Then we can use the Shift key and the middle mouse wheel to pan this, and then we can use the middle mouse wheel on its own to rotate it so we can see it at an angle. And then we can unlock this and then press F12 and we see it just looks rubbish. So let's sort that out. There's a couple of things wrong here. Number one, the light is in the wrong place. So if we were to press number 7, we can see the light is all the way over here. So if you click on the edge of the light, you can drag it to the front of this dragon. And then we could click on this blue arrow and drag it down towards where the dragon is. So it's closer to the dragon. Now if we press F12, you're going to see it's going to look a little bit better, but it's still blown out. The lighting isn't very good. So let's sort out the lighting. If you remember, we downloaded this HDRI map here, this one, right, from the other website, from HDR Haven. So let's use that as the lighting. So let's go back to Blender. Let's go to the shader here, shading. In fact, what we need to do is go to world settings here, world. Then we need to click on use nodes here. Then we'll go to the shading here. And we don't want to manipulate an object, we want to manipulate the world setting here, world. So we'll click that, and then we see these two options pop up. We'll click on this green background and delete it. We'll press Shift A to insert, Shift A, and we want to insert a texture, environmental texture here. And then we want to connect the color to the surface here. And then we can go into render view here. Because we look there, we don't need it anymore because that's not really our lighting. So we're going to go into the render view here. Now we can see it looks a bit crazy. In fact, what we can do is go into this collection. So click this drop down arrow and go into the collection here and turn off the light. Just turn it off temporarily. Click open, go to the HDRI folder and click on this museum and then click open. Now you can see the dragon with this lighting. So this lighting, this HDRI lighting is similar to the ones in LookDev, but you've specifically picked this lighting for this object, and I picked it specifically because it's got quite a lot of nice colors that complement the object, right? It's got a lot of golds and yellows and stuff in this environment. If we go back to layout mode, you can kind of see where all the lighting is coming from. It's coming from the ceiling, from these objects, it's shining off all these other metal objects, and that gives a lot of good lighting to this particular object, right? Now if we were to press F12, would render it, but we're going to see all of this museum thing in the background, and we don't want to see any of that. So there's a quick fix to that. We can press N on our keyboard, press number 7. That takes us into the top view, right? So we're looking at this object from the top. We're going to press Shift A and insert a UV sphere here. So this is just a sphere, and we're going to press S to scale it, and we're going to scale it up so that it covers this dragon. Then let's zoom out a little bit, and we're going to wireframe quickly. And in wireframe, you can't really see it too well, but let's go into wireframe. If I click on this collection here and click on the camera, you can see the camera's hit. So the camera is looking at the dragon here, and it's actually inside of this sphere. So if we press 0, now we go back to the render view. Now we've got rid of all of that background, or like this scene, you know, like this what was it called, this museum scene. So if we were to render it now at F12, we've got rid of that background, but we can still see it ain't looking quite right. So there's a few things wrong in here somewhere. So what we'll do is click on this light here, right click on it and delete it. Just delete that light. Let's go to File, Save, and then we'll click on this sphere. This is the sphere. We'll click on it and we'll go to Object and we'll select Smooth Shade Smooth here. Then if we press F12, our dragon is looking a lot better, right? Now, in theory, we should be able to go to here, click on Bloom, and I think let's see. We might actually have to put another light source in to get the bloom to work properly, but we can work on that in a moment. So now it's down to you what this sphere that we have. If we click on this camera, we'll go into the render view, right? So you can give this sphere a color, and that color would then be displayed within inside of the object itself. So if we go back into the camera view, we're actually inside this sphere at the moment, looking at the dragon. If we click on the sphere and then click on the material here, and then click New Material, we can pick any. If we want it to be black, then we can make it a black background, right? We can make it white. Now you can actually see the glow effect from this bloom here. You can see it much better. So if we press F12, now we can see that glow effect coming off of it because the background is much darker. It was too many. It was almost similar colors, this glow in the background before. So we can rotate around here. We can see what the sphere looks like now, right? Quite clearly what we're seeing. So if we press 0 again, we'll go back into the camera view. And what we can do is click on the sphere and we can increase the metallic. And then we can decrease the roughness or increase the roughness. We've got the, actually, let's set the metallic to 0. And if we put the roughness all the way down, we're going to see the actual the HDR environment, right? But if we give it a bit more roughness, we can fade it out, and then we get some nice like little colors and stuff going on in the background, and it will look quite nice. It will complement this dragon. So that's about it, really. You can now go and animate this dragon. You can do whatever you want with it. I think I'll end this tutorial here. I'm going to make a second part of this tutorial, and in the second part I think what I will do is create some smoke. Like, this is a dragon, right? So it needs some smoke and maybe a bit of fire. So maybe we'll rotate this dragon around, we'll spin it around and create some smoke effects, and we'll improve this blender work. But I think that's enough for this tutorial. You can go and experiment now with this dragon. You can change its color. You can even pick a different material. You didn't have to use this gold material. You can go back to that website, the website where we downloaded this material, and pick a completely different material and see how that affects the dragon, what it looks like. You can go and experiment. If you already know Blender quite well, you can probably animate this object quite easily, spin it around and create smoke and do all that good stuff. But I'm going to do that in the second part of this tutorial. Let's go to File, Save. We'll render it out one more time, just have a quick look. Quite happy with that. I like the little effects in the background with the lighting, and I like the glow effect as well. So when we animate this and spin it around, it's going to look pretty good. Okay, let's close this and we'll close down Blender. So that's the end of the first part of this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you on the second part.